Hello, it's me, Jay, your DM. I use he, him.
I'm Jerika. I use she, her.
And I, returning after a long hiatus, am Air, who uses he and him. And this is Insight Check, where we delve into the dungeon of your bad decisions to retrieve the treasure of wisdom. Look at that. I did it right off the hop. I remembered it. I didn't even have a script.
You stole it from me.
I did. I took it from you, and I'm never giving
monster.
it back. I'm taking your phrase and going home.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Insight Check. We are here after some time away. I feel like I haven't been on in a while.
I mean, I was here last week, so...
Well...
Little Miss Perfect Attendance over here.
Not quite.
If you
Pretty
polish
close.
that apple any harder, it's not going to have any skin
So you
left.
saying that I get 3 weeks off, 4 weeks off?
As much as you want, I guess.
Listen, your sabbatical is approved.
Yeah, you've earned it.
I'm gonna go research some... Watch me.
Dragons!
Great.
Dragons.
Typically, we start off the show not by rambling about inconsequential attendance.
That's exactly how we start.
But typically, we start off with the dungeon crawl.
Dungeon crawl.
Great song. So
Embers is in here. You got what you got.
Yeah, we are budget embers.
I feel like my energy is in a weird place. I feel like I've got to turn the energy. I don't know why I'm being the straight man here. Very unusual position for me to be in. Yeah, okay, all right, here we go. Let's wake up. Oh, yeah.
We're gonna do it now.
That waveform just peeked right off the bars.
Babe.
Snap into a slim pod. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that.
That is a good ending line.
Same pod, half the calories.
So, yeah, we normally do a dungeon crawl. Have we talked about the Kickstarter fever lately? Have we talked about, like, all these Kickstarters that are going?
Kickstart fever.
I mean, there's obviously, big elephant in the room. Critical Role Kickstarter, doing amazing. Don't have to really do anything about that. Swordfall looks amazing. Have you guys seen Swordfall?
Yeah.
Swordfall looks incredible. It's doing pretty well. It's already funded, and now it's like hit 3 or 4 stretch goals.
Dino
so that's pretty.
Wranglers.
The Wormwood is relaunched, so if you want to go spend your life savings on a table.
Humblewood.
Yeah. Humblewood birds in your D&D.
Burbs.
It's like a Kickstarter bonanza out there.
It's like a banana bonanza of Kickstarters.
Listen, there's a part of me in my heart, I won't deny it, there's a part of me in my heart that wants to buy one of those Wormwood DM screens.
You want to kickstart your heart?
No, but like those Wormwood DM screens, are magnetic, snap together, got the little flip around screen in the middle.
They were a defibrillator as well. They might be worth the cost.
There goes that sponsorship. We're done.
Prepare for the next heart attack at your table with Wormwood's defibrillator installed.
next-
You never know. I'm sure there's a non-zero probability.
It's the Demogorgon.
The heart attack will be caused by you showing the price tag to your friends.
Yeah.
It's like $50 a panel for the cheap ones. For the shitty woods. Not even the high quality woods.
His tombstone read, "You have how much disposable income? ...
I need Wormwood to figure out a plan where they just go to the local hardwood store and just dig around in the dirt for like the real worst wood they can find. And then just sort of, they don't have to put a lot of work into it, just put some magnets on it and maybe smooth it a little bit.
DIY this?
Yeah.
Why do we have to wait for Wormwood to do
It doesn't have to be nice. $25 would be a great entry level price point for me. That's where I'm at right now.
You're called Wormwood. Build it out of recycled coffins.
Build it out of worms. That's fine. Stitch them together. That's okay.
Yuck. Yucko.
What else is going on in Dungeons & Dragons this week?
Well, there is a absolutely heart pounding. Nope. There's a great fan art from MY2K. It is of Dairon and Little Bo.
Oh, yeah.
And it's pretty great. Let me, I'll paste it.
Last episode of Critical Role started a new catchphrase, which is where you say a phrase and then end it into regard. So, like, here we go, regard, or how do you want to do, regard? Or, yeah, oh, look at the little baby bow. Oh,
Yeah. And they doing the poses.
it's cute.
It reminds me, I've been rewatching. I've been doing a watch through of Korra.
Legend of Korra.
Legend of Korra.
Yeah, Avatar.
I knew there was some spice on there.
Last.
And it reminds me a lot of Legend of Korra. They look like waterbenders.
You know, I never realized how, like, perfect the title The Last Avatar is, because really, if you're the current Avatar, you are the last Avatar currently.
Right? You're the most recent.
Right, you're the last one right now. And then when the next one comes along, that's their series and they're the last Avatar.
It's
indeed.
I mean, it's the last Airbender because he's the last Airbender.
No, it's the last Avatar now, I think. I think I'm right on this, actually. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
It's Avatar. The last.
I feel
Airbender.
very confident.
You think it's Airbender the last Avatar?
Yeah.
Is that Air's last name?
It's-
Bender the last Avatar.
I just
good to know.
like that you're
Airbender.
doubling down on. That's really clever. That way, I misremembered that thing.
Yeah, no. I really like the way that I said it and that I was right about it.
You are totally right about it. The last Avatar until the next one. That's what they're calling the next.
The last
series.
Avatar Airbender stories. That's
Good.
the title.
You're a master brander.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Hit me up with that
Yeah.
royalty check. Absolutely. Okay, so Air, did you have one?
I did. So I've been on a bit of a hiatus from things because I recently had a small baby human, and they're great. He's a good little bat.
Hang on, how many times have they guested on the podcast?
Never
Oh,
once
wow.
because he.
So
is-
Douglas has been on here like
listen,
3 times.
Leap is a great father. And
Yeah.
I am just making my way in this world. Sometimes it takes everything you got to forget your troubles.
Just, you
Sure
know,
help a lot.
So no guest appearances, though. That would be the
No.
difference.
No.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can do in future. He's not as chatty as Douglas, or as quiet. Anywho,
So he's more chatty. Hang on a second. You just said he's not as chatty or as quiet. So he's more
no, 'cause chatty is
what
like adorable. Crying is like just an angry
It's a
person
form of
screaming.
chatting.
It's a form.
I'll have you know, my fur baby is right here. Right here.
So to get back into the TTRPG scene, I realized some of our dear listeners and cast members were, as I am, rampant Star Trek fans, and I found a little powered by the
Rabbit even.
yeah.
I am drooling. And also fangs. And also up in the daytime when I shouldn't be.
Nerds.
Yeah, that's accurate. So I found a little powered by the apocalypse hack called Strange New Worlds, which is a little unofficial Star Trek flavored.
Da, 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 da.
Nope,
Nope.
you're super close. The first word's right.
All right, so Star Trek, you played a game.
We played a session. We were unfortunately bereft our captain, but she will be joining us, I believe, for the next session. Is going to be saved from a prison colony by the crew. Yeah.
Why is she in prison?
She will find that out.
It's an edgier take on the Star Wars mythos. It's kind of a Deep Space Nine
Trek.
situation.
No, because like Star Trek Discovery, Michael was in prison for the first episode.
Listen, here's what I don't get. Here's what bothers me is that there are wars in Star Trek. So really, what's the fucking difference?
There are treks in Star Wars, like the whole Millennium Falcon parsec shit. That was a trek.
Ridiculous. Just make them one series. What are you doing,
No.
Hollywood?
No,
Merge the
Two
universes.
different flavors. They're like cinnamon raisin and maple and brown sugar. They're
I didn't
two
feel like there
different
was a
flavors.
huge difference in the Force Awakens and J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, but that's
Actually, I'll agree with you there because J.J. Abrams never made a Star Trek movie. He made 2 Star Wars movies and mislabeled one of them.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams is the culmination of all of these fandoms.
Wow, Air has some hot takes on the J.J. Abrams Star Trek flick.
I mean, it was perfectly fine. It just wasn't Star Trek. Star Trek isn't about flying around and pew-pewing, and they already have a sci-fi series for that. Anyway.
Something called the Prime Directive.
The Prime Directive. Don't pew-pew.
So you played Star Wars Powered by the Apocalypse. How did that go? Star Trek.
It went
All right, hang on.
well.
Okay. So you played Star Trek Powered by the Apocalypse.
Yes.
How did that go?
It went very well. We had a lot of fun. My players ended up filling canisters full of poison and shooting them through a hole in the enemy ship that they had carved with.
So would you say that captured the spirit of Star Trek?
I would say that a diplomatic solution wasn't forthcoming in that particular instance.
So that would make you a little bit of an Abrams kind of director, huh?
I mean, listen, I can't speak to... listen, I'm terrible and I like when big ships do pew-pews. I don't care what it's like.
Oh, God.
First you're roasting Abrams, now you're admitting you are Abrams. Next you're releasing a major motion picture.
Oh, listen, I didn't say I'd do a better job at directing Star Trek, whatever. And I'm not. The important thing is that I'm here, and I won't be fined.
It's true. So, I mean, Powered by the Apocalypse, how did that suit the whole Star Trek vibe?
It was really good. So they took a lot of like common roles and they reworked them to kind of be that Star Trek flavor. So they have like open a channel, perform a scan, which are things like, trying to convince an NPC or do an insight check is like open a channel, or perform a scan is, kind of your insight check, what's happened in this region of space recently, that kind of stuff. So they've reflavored it very, very well. And the best thing is like, the captain, the chief medical officer, they all have very specific moves that pull from the Star Trek mythos. So like you can, as the doctor, you can gain experience by pointing out that you were a doctor and not something else at one point during the game. So there's some really cute like nods in there, and it's a simple system to run. It's been fun.
Yeah, I feel like a rules light system like that is probably appropriate for the Star Trek mythos, which is more based in skills and application of your abilities as opposed to combat or positioning or tactical movements. Maybe the space battles.
Yeah, well, that said, our friend Maz is playing a Klingon and absolutely is desperate for the chance to put a batleth in someone. So I'm sure some melee rolls will come up, but...
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it, Air. I'm glad that you got to finally play some tabletop RPGs again. You're finding that work-life, baby, gaming balance.
It's a slow process, but I'm getting there.
It's good to have you back, buddy.
Yay. Hi, everyone. I'm Air. I'm on the podcast.
Okay, so we have a whole list of questions here. Some pretty good ones this week, I think.
Community grab bag. Good times. Yep. We are answering your questions.
Yeah, so if you are an enjoyer of this cast, past, present, or future, you can always go to our Twitter and find our Discord, unless it's too far in the future and we've all died.
Wow.
Yeah, but...
By which, how are you listening to this?
In the near future... I mean, like, listen, podcasts will be up forever, right?
Stuff lives forever.
That's it. So, if you're in the near future, relative to our current position in time, you could go to our Twitter and find our Discord, where we hang out a lot and probably too much, and chat about nonsense stuff.
And if you are from the far-flung future, Twitter was a system whereby anyone in the world could yell at anyone else in 480 individual characters. It's probably what led to the end times that you have lived through and survived and have found this recording. Remember us.
Or don't. You're probably better.
Yeah, I mean, we sucked. Honestly, we kind of sucked. So just forget us.
We fucked it all up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I apologize. I don't know what kind of, ocean thing you've created that's eaten all the heat out of the atmosphere or whatever, how you fixed all our fuck ups, but you on behalf of present humanity, I apologize for fucking that all up. Anyway, let's answer some damn questions.
Where would you like to start, Jay?
What is a great mechanic in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons? I'm going to detour before answering this question. I am a moderator in D&D Beyond Discord, right? And they actually have rules for the moderators where we can't say 5e. We have to say 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. We have to spell the whole thing out every time.
Cool.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah, I just thought that was like a weird, I guess it's a branding thing. Like,
Yeah, probably.
WotC's very protective of their brand, as most corporations are.
Do you have to say Wizards of the Coast?
We do not. Here's a fun fact. So we don't mention Wizards of the Coast, if we can avoid it, and we also don't mention 5th edition if we can avoid it. We just say Dungeons and Dragons, and we don't specify the edition because the perception is that there is only one edition, and that edition is Dungeons and Dragons, and all other editions are irrelevant.
Is D&D acceptable, or is it Dungeons?
No,
and
it's
Dragons?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
And
Dungeons ampersand Dragons.
yeah, so if we
TM.
no, we have to say and with the A-N-D.
Oh, interesting.
And if we abbreviate D&D Beyond, we have to use the ampersand, not the N.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they have.
That's going to be real confusing for people looking for the URL.
They have. Yep, but we have guidelines about. I just thought that was funny. Like brands are weird.
It's interesting.
Anyway, what is a great mechanic? My words are bad.
What about your soul, dude?
My soul. All right, you wicked fiend from the pits of hell. My soul is fine. Beelzebub.
You know what my name is.
Screw tape.
Nope.
Keep your letters to yourself.
It starts with a G.
Caristro?
The thing we're gonna fight on Monday.
Oh my god. Yep, Glabrezu.
Yes. You got it. That's my name.
Glabrezu. Welcome to
Give
the
me
podcast.
yourself.
Welcome to the podcast, Glabrezu. Now, what are your pronouns, Glabrezu?
V, Veer, and Vim.
Oh, well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Glabrezu. We don't get that many opportunities to speak to fiends, so we really appreciate it.
Can I call you Glabby?
No.
I wouldn't.
You can call me Resi, though.
Resi? Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right. So exclusive.
That's what my friends in the Abyss call me, although I don't call them anymore because they're in the Abyss.
Right. The howling winds make reception really bad.
It's true.
Yeah, the constant screams of agony.
Yeah, it's really like the worst part of my life.
So this is a question and answer podcast, so I'm going to ask a question here, and Glabrezu...
I will answer it as Glabrezu.
Yeah, Glabrezu, if you'd like to answer, or if you'd like to hand the mic back to Jerika at some point, just let us know whenever you make that transition.
Good.
But yeah,
Awesome.
for now, Glabrezu Air. Question from Scarlet Moth in the Discord. What is a great mechanic in 5th edition which you feel is underused or underappreciated?
I'm back.
I feel like... is this Jerika?
Yeah, hi.
Oh, hi, Jerika. Glabrezu didn't even stay for the first question. Wow. Feel really silly for introducing them now.
Veer is busy.
What is great mechanic in 5th edition you feel is underused or underappreciated? Underwater combat.
Oh, yeah.
It's exactly appropriately appreciated. It's a pain in the ass. Air, what do you think?
I'm going to go ahead. I was just skimming through D&D Beyond.
Mm-hmm. It's never been easier.
It's never been easier. Why, I was just looking up a bunch of rules apocrypha just now, Jay. Let me tell you. So a couple things. For skill checks, one of the things that they give you, I sometimes wonder, I'm like, this character's strong. Would they be able to lift that or move that thing? How heavy is that thing? So being able, there is like a way to calculate their maximum push, drag, and lift. So it doesn't get used all that often, but if you're ever like coming down to like, how heavy a thing can you actually lift? There are ways to calculate it. And the other one I'm going to say is contests. One of the things that I really liked about the early days of the McElroy brothers, the Adventure Zone, is Griffin just had them do contests for everything. I think some of that was inspired by maybe not knowing the rules super well because they were kind of all new to 5e or Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition.
Mm-hmm. As it is properly called.
Yeah, this is properly called, as is its Christian name.
That's the name Jesus knows. Jesus would recognize 5e.
Yeah.
Jesus in heaven would hear 5e and be like, who? I didn't create that. I created 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons in my spare time. He's a big game designer. I don't know if you knew that.
I mean, he created the greatest game of all that we call life.
Oh, it is the greatest game of all.
But I think there's a lot of contests we know very well, like grapple checks, this athletics check versus someone else's athletics or acrobatics. But you can call for contests anytime you have two or more on either side opposing forces going for things. And they're a great and quick way to not have to figure out DCs. Just use the stats you've already got for monsters and characters and just have them go head to head rather than having to figure out, I don't know, this is kind of difficult, but maybe not too difficult. So anyway.
No, I agree. Another thing that I think is probably a little bit underutilized as far as your typical D&D session goes is I think that people don't use inspiration, and I don't think people use passive ability scores enough. Being aware of your character, being aware of your players' passive ability scores has never been easier with the power of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, because the passive ability scores are listed right there on the character sheet. And you can, like on Roll20 or on D&D and Beyond, either one, you have access to that information all the time. You should be using that stuff as a DM. Don't make your players roll when you don't want them to know you're doing secret shit. That's gonna blow your surprise. Then everybody's just like on edge and they're gonna be super annoying and like overly cautious about everything for the next 10 minutes. Just use their passive scores if you want to surprise them with something.
Or if you have good players where it's like, give me a perception check and no one gets above the DC, it's like, okay then. And they don't know that they didn't hear something, so that they should be RPing appropriately. But it's not always easy. Some of us, me, are admitting.
Oh, Air.
It sounded more like a vomit.
It sounded like a heart attack. It sounded like your heart seized in your chest.
If only I had a wormwood table.
Yeah.
We could have avoided this tragedy.
You could have defibrillated.
Defibrillate now. Please.
Listen, Wormwood does not provide this service. We're going to get them sued.
I heard on Inside Check.
I don't know if anyone is expecting that.
I heard on Inside Check there would be a defibrillator in here. I have frequent minor heart attacks, and this was the cheapest option.
Tools is my answer.
Tools? Oh,
yes,
yeah.
I agree, we are.
No, but like tool rolls and proficiency rolls with tools.
Herbalism kits and whatnot.
People forget they have these things. Alchemist supplies, carpenter's kits.
Yeah. Blacksmith tools.
Thieves' tools, even.
Hammers that aren't used in combat. Tongs that aren't used in combat, etc., etc. Yeah, and drums, like instruments, when you're not like an entertainer or a bard.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with that. Tools are totally underutilized.
Labrezu only speaks truth. Oh,
wait a minute, you're back. Welcome back.
I lied.
That's what you do, Prince of Lies. That's what we call him.
No, that's the hell guy.
Oh, sorry.
Nine Hells guy. I hate him.
Well,
dated my cousin once.
Oh my god, I did not mean to bring up any bad blood here. We are not a drama cast.
Love in the face of blood war. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's inspiring.
It didn't end well.
Other rules that are maybe underused, death and dying. Kill more PCs.
Oh boy.
That is definitely the answer.
Have you been inspired by Z?
If a bard turns a weapon into an instrument.
Whose question is this?
does it still have the same damage properties? For example, turning an axe into a guitar, asked by user Mickelwain.
Michael Wayne. Our friend Michael.
Mickelwain.
Michael Wayne. Bruce's plucky younger one.
I think you'll know it's actually Mickelwain.
No, here we go again. We've made these jokes before. Give me a sale. We're turning an axe into a guitar, are we?
A guitar is already an axe.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, honestly, this is a DM call. Your DM will have to adjudicate this decision. But let me ask you a more interesting question, perhaps, or a different version of this question. What weapons could be instruments?
Maces.
Maces? What kind of mace instrument?
It's,
a hollow mace could be a maraca.
A hollow mace could be. I was thinking more of like drumming, dual wielding maces and drumming.
Well, all the spikes would ruin your drum. That would be
like the maraca.
I think you're thinking of a morning star.
Listen, if I know anything, it's that maces have spikes, and that name is pronounced Mickelwane. I'm always right. Okay.
No, let me pitch you swords.
Swords.
Okay. Have you ever seen someone play a saw?
Oh, so you're talking about like a barbed edge sword?
Yeah.
No, I mean it doesn't need to have. It just needs to be.
That would need to be a very flexible sword, like a rapier.
Yeah,
a rapier.
Yeah, and then you need like a bow, and you're all set.
It's pronounced rapier.
Yeah. Listen.
Oh, no.
The original French.
Yeah. A rapier. Yeah, so, it is me, Glyph the Bard.
It's Glyph. Hello, Glyph.
Yeah, I guess a rapier could be, played that way. Let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna challenge you. How do we instrumentify a whip? A whip. Whoopsh.
So, how high is your dexterity?
Very high.
Okay, imagine, if you will, a line of wine glasses with water of various levels.
Okay.
If someone pulls out a whip and asks, how high is your dexterity? Your night's about to get real good or real bad real quick.
Your dexterity's so good that you can play the wine glasses with your whip.
So you're just cracking the whip from across the room and then just barely tapping the edge of the glass to make the ooh.
If I may, I think if you step on one end and hold up the other, you could play
so it's a one-string guitar.
Pluck the other.
Gut bass.
No, you gotta strap it across
boing,
a
boing.
resonant hollow thing, right?
The bard's skull.
The bard's skull.
There you go. Perfect. Woo! After a night of passion.
We got
also
there.
Including the whip.
We did it. We arrived at the joke.
Do you want some fun rules, Apocrypha, Jay?
Sure.
Boy.
You basically have to have your instrument be a weapon because you have to play your instrument in order to cast your spell. So if you're like a gishy bard, you're constantly having to switch out and draw and sheath a weapon if you want to attack or cast spells. So if your instrument is already a device of murder, you're ahead of the game, and then you don't have to worry about all the stupid thingies.
Well, you could also use one-handed instruments.
That's no fun.
What is a one-handed instrument?
Blimey.
I don't know if I can name one. A maraca.
A maraca.
Castanet.
2 spoons.
The castanets. Oh my god.
The kazoo.
Bells. Ooh. Nope. Cowbells, 2 hands. Tambourine. There you go. In my experience, the default weapon as instrument is the war lute. Why is that?
The perversion of Jerry Holkin's mind.
Okay, that's all Jerry.
I don't know. I don't remember hearing a lot about war lutes before Jerry, but I guess they must have existed.
I had.
It's got a James Bond, Jerry Holkins, DM of the C Team, Acquisitions Inc. CEO Omendron, and general all around human.
I don't know who you're talking about. Can you clarify more?
I forget how to do podcasts. Do we have to say who these people are? Do we assume the audience knows? His warlutes have a very James Bond-esque feel, where they're constantly popping out with various sharp bits and projectile bits, and I like it.
I agree with you.
I think it's good. I'm trying to think of a different instrument that would be really difficult to convert into a weapon.
A harp.
A harp would be
anything that you can't pick up without help.
Here's the thing.
Push it over on someone.
Here's the thing, okay? A harp, right?
It's already a weapon.
You're playing the harp, you're plucking along, you're just having a great time.
Garrote, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Just jump right in front of me. I don't need to.
Yes.
Listen, I don't need to take you on a word journey. That's fine.
No,
Behind.
So
tell
anyway,
me.
what's the next
I'm
question?
sure there's some people that don't know what a garrote is, and you can paint a
No,
word
it's fine.
picture
You
for
pop
them.
off a wire, you choke somebody. It's fine. It's fine. Moving on.
Good.
From Ooze the Muse,
I
a
know him.
player in my current D&D campaign. The Small Folk game is great and amazing and really enjoyable. You should watch it on Twitch. It's streamed.
Next game is 323.
323. You heard it here first. Or actually, probably you heard it on Twitter first.
Nice. Wait, no, that's the wrong number.
Nope. Ooze the Muse.
23?
323. So 420 is the weed time. 323 is
The chat time. We're going to chat. We're going to hang out. We're going to make friends.
323. 323. What does that look like? It kind of looks
He's
like.
typing it as we speak, people.
It kind of looks like. It looks like.
There's a nose in the middle, and there's two like black eyes.
Oh, like a
that are
very
puffy.
big nose, and then kind of like kissy eyes.
But it's also like upside down.
It could be. It could be a butt, and then another butt. It's like butt to butt. So 323.
No, but it isn't butt to butt. It's butt and then some space and then another butt facing.
But it's saying
the
like
same
butt
way.
to butt. It's saying butt
Oh,
to
I
butt.
see butt to butt.
Yeah, butt to
Interesting.
butt,
That's
so-
an interesting sex move.
So butt to butt. So 323 is, of course,
Baby.
everybody knows the classic move, butt to butt.
butt to butt.
Anyway, Ooze the Muse asks, advice on time limits, learning to read the room, and when to properly end on the dreaded cliffhanger. Obviously, Ooze is asking this because I'm very good at it. And they want to learn from the very best at this particular skill.
Like no one ever was.
Yeah, they were just like, oh my god, these cliffhangers are so good. Teach me how to do them, Jay. You're welcome, Ooze. I will. Okay, when you're running a game of Dungeons and Dragons, you need to sort of be cognizant of the time during the entire session. So you should be frequently checking how far you are in. Like, I mean, obviously you don't want to be like sitting there staring at your phone as you're DMing and reading out things to them. But you have to check your notes frequently. You have to go back to the computer for stats and monster stuff and stuff like that. So you can just check the time. Around an hour from the end of your game, you should start initiating the end game. You should start, like, beginning the wrap-up protocol, like, moving them actively towards where you want them to be, or moving them along where they currently are, along whatever route they've chosen. But you need to be cognizant, once it's an hour until the end of the game, that's when you need to be, like, cognizant that the end is coming. Because you can always end a little early. It can be difficult to end late. So I would rather end on a good cliffhanger a few minutes early than to run out of time and have to just sort of end in the middle of a sentence. Other than that, I would say have your cliffhangers in mind before the game begins, but don't be beholden to them. So if your player's going a wildly different direction, you should honor that and follow where they're going. So you shouldn't force them onto a track if it totally doesn't make sense anymore. Yeah, you don't really want to railroad them too much, but a little railroading here and there is not the end of the world. But yeah, you should kind of know what you want to begin on and end on before the session ends, and let the middle be sort of freeform, whatever they want. But yeah, so for example, my most recent session of my boat game, they ended last session on a kraken appearing beneath the ship. So it was this very dramatic moment. And then they begin the session, I obviously know, negotiating with this kraken. And then in the middle of the session, it's sort of downtime and chill out time between adventures. And then at the end of the session, I'm building up this next adventure, where a lot of things are happening at once. Ramifications of their choices with the kraken, and all these other things are happening. So there's this murder that happens towards the end of the session. And they think it's a person that they just brought on board the ship, a stowaway. And I'm building up this moment, and they've managed to get the stowaway locked up, but they're still not sure if he's actually the one who murdered anybody. And so at that point, I've sort of missed the dramatic moment to end the session, which is like on the murder, right? But it was too early.
Excuse me, the correct pronunciation is Moida.
Thank you. So I had missed the moment that would have been really dramatic on this murder.
Moida.
This Moida. I had missed the Moida moment. And so I was sitting there thinking, like, what's a good way to end the session? And this storm had been pursuing them the whole way. And so they managed to get this person locked up.
Elder Tempest?
Who knows? But
those are sentient.
Who knows? So they locked this person up, and I end on the storm breaking. And, it's just kind of like on top of everything else. Now there's a storm. And my player just blessed me with the greatest way to end the session, which is that they just exclaimed, "That seems right!" Just like in exasperation. Like everything else had gone wrong. And now the storm breaks, and they're like, "That seems right!" And I'm like, and that's where we end the session. So sometimes you just gotta take the little gifts from your players.
Like when they agree to opening a jar.
Yeah, exactly.
And a big thing comes out, and then, in the session.
Yeah. That's another good one. You had the iron flask, you didn't know what was in it, and then you open it, and this demon pops out. And then I said,
fight it.
Next week we'll pick up here. It's a great place to end the session.
And I assume you had no idea that we were gonna...
Yeah, there was a million, I rolled random loot for that place. I didn't know that the iron flask was in there until you started going over the items in the thing, and I looked up what an iron flask was, and then I realized it was a container for creatures, and that you could roll on a random table and determine what creature it was, and then I rolled, just while you guys were playing, I got a type 2 demon. So then I looked up what the heck are type 2 demons, and it's a list of demons, and one of them is a Glabrezu. And I'm like, okay, there's a Glabrezu in there. Yep, that's you, Brezzy. Sorry, didn't mean to name drop you there. me and Brezzy are tight.
No problem.
But yeah, so I had no idea any of that was gonna happen. It was purely reactive, but it was great. It was dramatic. So I think half the battle is just identifying a dramatic moment and being okay with ending a little early if you get that dramatic moment. And the other half the battle is letting your players sometimes just win, Sometimes your players will just say something funny or clever or witty, and it's good to end on that. And it goes out on a high. But the thing about a good cliffhanger is that if you can utilize it well, if you can manage to time it in, if you can get to a cliffhanger on a session, it really does put energy forward in the campaign, because it's like you're leaving them wanting the next session. So it's like that good energy, but you can't always end on a cliffhanger. Sometimes it's just going to end, and that's fine too. Like, you shouldn't feel that pressure to end it on a cliffhanger every time. I'm not going to have a Kraken and then a murder mystery every 2 weeks. Like, it's not going to always be that high tension. So it's just like, sometimes you get it and it's great and it feels like a drug. You're just so thrilled that you got that awesome cliffhanger. Sometimes you're not going to get it, and that's okay. Oh, but it does feel like a drug when you pull it off. It's like, oh, this is awesome. I just totally nailed it.
That's what makes you a good DM and other people not so good.
Why is that?
Because they don't feel that cliffhanger high.
That rush.
Are there people who don't feel the cliffhanger high?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that cliffhanger high.
Yeah, you would.
What she's trying to tell you, Jay, is that this is an intervention. This is...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You just walked into your own intervention and we're like, I love drugs!
I love cliffhangers! I'll hang you on a cliff every week! I need the cliffhanger. Please don't take these away from me. It's all I've got here.
I hit rock bottom by falling off the cliff that everyone was hanging on. I can't go on.
My fingers are so tired.
No reason. I'm not interested at all. Did the Star Trek game end on a cliffhanger?
It did.
Hey!
Do I get to know?
You do. I didn't know how much you wanted to know because
I mean, I need to know everything.
But because it was our opening intro kind of adventure, I made it a 2-parter, so it ended on a cliffhanger.
Of course.
Oh, what did you do?
Because Jerika was going to play with us and unfortunately couldn't make it, I had to
producing our amazing show.
Small folk game.
Hey.
So I
Doing
had
a great
to,
job.
I had to do a workaround to kind of write her out of the first game. And I made her part of a diplomatic delegation that was meeting with a new species, which turned out to actually...
We're on a diplomatic mission.
Yeah.
Tell me the cliffhanger, please.
They offer asylum to a slave, which then leads to the diplomatic group that was meeting with them being captured, of which Jerika's character is a member. So it is going to be a rescue mission next game.
Oh.
So I left them on a cliffhanger that way.
Cliffhangers are the best. Get your high today.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow.
So we're at 50 minutes, but I'm going to cut 30 minutes of this. So we do need to answer the last one. So
The entire
who's the
podcast
muse?
is 2 seconds of us just saying, bah!
Yeah. The little cliffhanger at the end is going to be 30 minutes long.
That's part of the episode, though.
Yeah.
It's quality content.
Who's the Muse also asks, what evil machinations do you use to subvert your non-tabletop RPG friends to play D&D with you? Easy. Invite your friends over for dinner. Everybody sits down. You put down a plate of food. You lift up the metal tray because you're fancy like that. It's a fucking dungeon. Roll initiative.
Nice. I love it. Classy. I offer them free cat pets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's also a
If
good
they
offer.
can get their hands on him, they can pet him.
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood. I thought you were petting them like they were cats. I was like, that seems... okay, whatever. Cool.
I have a cat,
I
let them pet him.
I understand the directionality now. I apologize. I get it.
How do I say that to be more...
The cat pet.
I
I offer them
thought-
free cat pets. I see. The cat's petting them. I get it. Okay. Wow.
Yes, the cat's definitely petting them.
Air.
I thought cat was like an adjective or an adverb.
No.
It was a style of...
Adjective.
Yeah.
Oh, you pet them in a cat-like way? Air! Get out!
Yeah, I need that gift.
Initiative for
Yes, exactly. I'll pet you in a cat-like way. You better roll.
All right, Air. How do you convince your friends to play?
So friends, I had a group of nerd friends who we just kind of, with the rise of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons and never 5e,
As it is proper to say.
we had all figured out that we were kind of interested. So it was kind of serendipity in that regard. I don't think I would ever push it. It's kind of like, it's still kind of, yeah.
Push it real good.
We're back on the drug metaphors, which is concerning. Is D&D a drug?
So I think
Check out next week's episode where we discuss that.
That's a good cue. Put it in the queues.
A very
we're next
special
week where we
episode.
grind pure D&D and snort
Yeah. Next week's on this very special episode
Yeah.
of Dungeons and
off
Dragons
the back of
podcast.
the Glabrezu. Something I was saying. Oh yes, it's kind of like because it's risen in nerd culture, but I don't think it's necessarily really cracked popular culture like other things like comic books and superheroes have. So it's still kind of a secret handshake kind of thing. So I know I've met people where it's like, you know, I'll say a thing that is like an inside baseball kind of TTRPG thing, and they'll be like, what about D20s? And then, you know, it can kind of lead to a conversation from there. I met one colleague of one of my coworkers who's in a different department who is running Powered by the Apocalypse game, and he's a GM. And it was just because I offhandedly mentioned something at a lunch one time and we got to talking. So I try not to proselytize people. I preach to the converted instead. It's way easier, and say, hey, person already playing, will you be my friend?
But that's not the question.
You're right.
The question is, how would you
Oh,
convert me, Air? Seduce me!
Butt to butt.
What?
oh God.
Well, with that, we are done with this episode of Inside Check.
Labrazu approves.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Inside Check. As always, thanks to Vinswept for our intro and outro, and thanks to Amy T. Falcone for our faces. Without you, we would not have faces, and that would be bad. We would also like to say thank you to everyone who left a question here, Ooze, Mika1A, and as well, we would like to thank our other question asker, Scarlet Moth. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in our Your Cues section or add us on Twitter at InsightCheckPod. Go ahead and give us a follow there as well. And we would also appreciate any ratings or reviews on iTunes. And thank you so much for listening. Answering your cues from our collective A's.
This
Was
Insight
Check. You know, start that again.
from God.
From Gad.
from God. I'm on a mission from God.
No, it's Gad. It's like G-A-D.
Yeah.
They,
G-A-H-D. Gad.
Yeah, Gad.
Gad.
From Gad. Anyway, go on, Eric.
Fuck. This is the worst episode yet.
FGIF, I'm going to Moida Gad.
I'm gonna moita God. Oh yeah, here we go. We've reached peak Jerika.
It is so good that Haley's not here because this Bostonian chicanery
she would
is,
hate it.
oh man. Haley, you dodged a
Sweet
bullet. We miss you.
Caroline.
Ba, ba, ba. Ba, da, ba.
Seems so good.
I've been inclined.
Sometimes you gotta ba, other times you gotta ba.